Alrighty, howdy neighbors and welcome back to Our Life. Last time we had dinner and went on a road trip. And with that, summer ended. I got nothing else to do! What do you mean? There was no denying it. Today was the very last day of summer. Tomorrow you were heading to class. Going to school meant heading over the autonomy you had over the past few weeks. You had very little control over what you did at school or who you shared class with. It was with a heavy heart that you chose your outfit for the final day of freedom. Life was going to be different. You had come to think that summer vacation was the norm, but school sucked up a majority of the year, whereas summer vacation was just a respite in the middle. So rather than being different, it was kind of a return to normal. What did your normal life really mean? Considered how fondly your moms talked about their summer vacations as kids, you dimly recognized that 1 year of pattern of school and summer itself would be over for good. It was hard to imagine. It really sucks. I'm not gonna lie, that sucks because you are so used to it. And they're like, oh, by the way, you're done now, bye. Girl, come on. That's not what I'm looking for. You got distracted, one was still on one sleeve. You pulled it through and put your mind back to the present. This season had brought about plenty of changes in your life, like Kara's visit, though that too was coming to an end today. Even though you got a chance to know her. She was interesting to be around. You liked how easy it was to talk to her. You finished dressing, which was good. Cove would be there any moment. He agreed to see his mom off today. Officially, the plan was for him to come over and bring you around his house when she was ready to set off. But you both knew that you'd be hanging out for at least a little while beforehand. Kara's visit had troubled Cove when it first happened. It was a sudden change, thanks to Mr. Holden's infamous tendency to surprise people. But once he was able to adjust, he'd been in pretty good spirits with her around. It was a relief for everyone. The next thought that crossed her mind was, it would only be polite to get the door for Cove. You went downstairs to wait. Couldn't wait to see Cove, so you went downstairs to meet him when he arrived. When he was well enough, you could lie in your room. Couldn't wait. You bounded down the stairs, your hand glided over the rail. You wanted to make sure that you got there first. If you didn't hurry, your moms might answer it. It was only a few minutes later when the doorbell rang. As you chosen to stand beside to wait for Cove, there was no delay in pulling it open. Cove was there just as you expected. Seeing you, he flashed a bright grin. Hey. Hi, Viola. Hi. Smiling, you beckoned for him to come in and follow you upstairs. Back up in your room, you sat down on your bed and waited for Cove to settle in, as you knew he would. With other guests, you might have offered them a seat, but you and Cove were long past the tentative stage of friendship. Your room was familiar to him as his own. You watched as Cove sat down on your desk chair, his preferred spot. He rolled it closer to the bed, making it easier to chat, tweaking the angle so he could be facing you fully. Once happy in that position, he leaned in toward you, hands held in his lap. His actions weren't the ones someone who planned on moving from his spot anytime soon. Even though you had an appointment to keep together that day. When's your mom leaving?
Don't worry about it.
We've got some time. She's still got a shower and stuff before she goes. She didn't want me to keep hanging around while she was doing that. He tilted his head, his gaze drifting out through the window, and chuckled. Can't believe she's already leaving. Then I was getting used to her being there every day. He leaned back in the chair, a weary smile tickling his cheeks. He nodded. He shook his head, as if shaking off the topic like a dog wiping off water, followed by a dip in the sea. Cove perched an elbow on the chair's arm and propped his jaw against his curled hand. There was a natural ease to his movements, a familiarity from the echoes of all the times before when he sat in that same position. It's been a real nice summer. we have to spend so much time together. Cove, still nestled cozily in a chair, smiled at your response. How are your fish doing? Really good. Things in the tank are stable and everyone looks healthy. It was nice to hear. You will learn from Cove how hard it was to maintain an aquarium. Sunbeam has been busy. Keeps darting between the plants and out again as I walk by, like game peekaboo or hide and seek. Yeah. Cove idly glanced at the window. He gave a resigned sigh. It's getting harder to surf. You know, with school, it's getting colder out. I don't want to get rusty. I don't know how I'm gonna go on without surfing. Surf at school when we can. It's too bad we can't make the most of the waves. But there's other fun stuff to do. He gave a light smile, coupled by a shrug as response. Viola, Cove! Some call from downstairs caught you both unaware. You'd had nearly forgotten the world outside your room. The guilty look on his face, Cove had done the same. Just had a call, Cove's mom's ready to go. If you're quick, she might keep the mandated motherly smothering to the minimum. You doubted that, but it was nice that Mom and Miss Pierce had their strange sense of humor in common. Your eyes met Cove's. Wordlessly, you headed downstairs together. Each step on the way there was painfully slow, like he was trying to delay the inevitable. His whole body tensed up leaving the house, and Cove froze altogether before you both could cross the street.
Oh.
The door was open. That must be taking her stuff out. He swallowed hard. She's really gonna leave. You rested your hand on his arm. Cove looked at you like he was hoping you had a solution for how he was feeling, and all you could do was give him his arm a squeeze for support. At that, some of the conflict wearing on his face eased a bit. Together, you went across the street and inside his house, finding his parents in the living room surrounded by his mom's packed things. Hey kids. Good timing, I just called the taxi.
Hi.
And hi, Viola. I'm glad I got to see you today. It was fabulous getting to know you this summer. I finally got to put a face to the name I've been hearing so many times. She winked and Cove pouted on cue over the teasing. Hope you had a good time visiting. I really did, thank you. Nodding, Kyra turned her attention back to her boys. She patted Cliff on the arm with a warm smile. And then she enveloped Cove in a crushing hug. Initially, Cove squirmed to break free from her grip, but his mom was unfazed and kept him locked in place. Heartbeats later, he gave in and hugged her back tightly.
I'm so glad.
I was so happy this trip was a success. Cove looked like he was bursting with pride. And then Cove stiffened. Kyra loosened her hold on him enough to steady his face concern. She spoke her next words in a whisper that had been meant just for her son. Do you want to unshelve it? Raising an eyebrow, Cliff watched them carefully. His smile began to falter.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? Cove's gaze moved to the floor. He looked like he was grappling with where to begin, but then Cliff smacked his hand on his own cheek. The noise caught everyone's attention. Cliff's eyes were wide, and you could clearly see a light bulb moment he was experiencing in his head. It shouldn't have been a surprise. We're behind your back again. Yeah. It only took me the very last moment to realize it. Crossing his arms, Cliff laughed at himself. You could tell it was out of frustration and disbelief rather than the good-natured feelings. I'm so sorry. I really thought I had gotten better at this. You have. Joe's voice was small, but it was enough to break through his dad's thoughts. His mouth pulled into a small smile.
It's okay.
It's been a long time since something like that had happened. Not long enough. You deserve better than a blockhead falling back on his old habits just because things seem to be going good.
I'm trying.
It won't keep happening. I promise it'll work on it. We all can work on it. I can try harder myself to be in the loop on what's happening over here. As a happy smile quickly spread across Cove's face, he answered delicately, Okay. You felt relieved seeing how much the whole family had grown together since you first met them. You could talk to each other more easily. After that, it wasn't long before the taxi arrived. Rolling up in front of the house, the clear view of the open door. Kara stood up, smiling sadly. Well, that's my ride. Yeah. The magic reply got a chuckle out of Kyra as you all filed out of the house. Father and son went with Kyra's bags in hand. Outside, you spotted your family waiting by the street. You were surprised that Derek was also with them. He stood up comfortably as he waved as soon as you noticed him.
What's up?
Hey Viola, hi Cove. What are you doing here? My dad dropped me off a little bit ago. I thought I could visit one more time before school started.
Sorry.
You picked a busy time, sorry. Derek couldn't even look at Cove. He nervously kept rolling a pebble at the bottom of his shoe.
Sorry.
I wasn't even thinking that your mom was leaving today. I'm sorry, dude. Well, you're not interrupting anything. You're always welcome here. It would have been sad if I didn't get to say goodbye before leaving. Derek came to hang out often, so it was inevitable that the two had met at some point this season. I think so too. His parent Derek would have preferred to have gotten there at a more opportune moment. He never liked seeming impolite, but the reassuring words soothed his worries. Tension was holding his body lessened, and he looked like he was feeling much better, much more like himself. Bye, Derek. It was fun getting to know you. Bye, ma'am. Is there something I could do to help?
Nah.
Now, don't worry yourself over it. We're just about set. In a short amount of time, Cliff had gathered the packed bags into the trunk. Harry took one last look at everyone inside. Well, I don't want to keep the driver waiting. It's time to head over. The little crowd had formed around, started their chorus of farewells and their well wishes travels. But Kyra still made no move to get into the taxi. She placed her attention to Cove. I'll call when I get to the airport. I'm gonna make it to Nevada. You better call the moment you walk in the door at home. Otherwise, we'll be wondering all night if you got into trouble on the way there. I could do that. And could you call tomorrow too? So I can tell you how school went? Of course, I want to hear all about it. Her put a hand on Cove's head affectionately and ruffled his hair one last time. She then let go, only to move into squeezing his cheeks with her hands instead. Mom, love you so much, baby. She chuckled by the time she freed him and rounded things off with a small tap on the tip of his nose. Cove rubbed his face with the brim. Finally, she walked to the car while waving, took her seat in the taxi. Cliff hooked an arm around Cove's shoulder and kept him close as it began to pull away. For a moment, Cove looked up at his dad and then wrapped an arm across his back. Bye, Mom. Bye, safe travel. Kara rolled down the window and stuck her head out. She waved again while blowing kisses to Cove and Cliff. See you again. Before she was out of sight, you decided to wave goodbye. The taxi headed out of the road. You stuck your hand in the air to send her off. The cab turned down another road and completely disappeared from view. Cove let go of his dad and took a few steps into the empty street, still looking in the direction his mom went. He smiled quietly, deep in thought. Got the impression that Cove was feeling better than he was earlier. He was finally content with the way things were. You jumped a bit when your mom put her hand on your shoulder, pulling you away from your thoughts. She smiled when you looked at her. This was a great vacation, huh? Yeah. That's what I was hoping to hear. Cove walked back over to the group, still genuinely happy. Derek grinned at him welcomingly, and everyone else there smiled at him, even Elizabeth.
Well?
Ma clapped her hands together, bringing everyone's attention back to the present. Then was lunchtime. I think I'll put something special together. Her eyes sparkled with a plan, and Mom smiled. I bet you could use some help with that. That'd be absolutely wonderful. Derek glanced between the two, his eyebrows furrowed. Is there something I could do? Max exchanged a fond expression. Ma shook her head.
How sweet.
That's very sweet, Derek, but it's alright. It's not your job. Technically, your dad left you under Cliff's watch. You're meant to be taking care of him, not doing chores for the neighbors. Mom laughed over Love's over hers. You noticed, or you watched Derek look away, discouraged. It's okay, I don't mind. He was a little bashful about it. He wondered if Mom's joke had just reminded him that he wasn't initially meant to be invited to lunch. It was getting a little awkward. Mom grinned sympathetically. Her comment was meant to lighten the mood, not bring it back down. Ma tried again to get things moving forward. Why don't you kids go have fun? You all come back in about an hour. We'll make everything for everyone. Mom nodded in agreement.
Sounds good.
Another stunning plan, Lonnie. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Sounds like a plan then. I don't want to cramp your style. I've got some stuff to work on. So I can be out of your hair this afternoon. You should come by later too. No reason you should be the odd man out. Mom seemed amused as Cliff rubbed the back of his neck nervously. He grinned, a wavering but pleasant smile.
Thanks very much.
I appreciate the invite. He looked over at the assembled crowd with knowing glances. I can help too. With this many people you're feeding, it's gonna be a lot of food. Don't you hear what we told Derek? It wouldn't be fair to make you cook when we're the ones who invited you in. Mom raised an eyebrow and Cliff waved it off.
Come on.
I insist. Derek would be missing time with his pals. It would be a break for me. This would be a break for me. I'm quite the chef. Ma and Mom exchanged further glances before Mom shrugged. An airtight argument. If you're sure, we'll be happy to have you, Chef Cliff. Cliff's grin widened and seemed more hyped than you'd expect him to be about helping with lunch. Cove shook his head, a fun smile on his face. Then all us grown-ups are gonna be heading inside. Assume the rest of you kiddos are staying out? Maybe not all of them. Ma tilted her head, a silent question to Elizabeth. Your sister thought for a moment.
All right.
I'll stay with the kids.
That's fantastic.
That's great. Both your mom smiled at her, while Derek and Cove didn't seem to appreciate her phrasing. But with the plan decided, all three parents waved and headed for your house. It was just you teenagers now. Elizabeth looked at you and the others, a curious expression on her face. So what now? I silently wondered if Elizabeth only stayed out here to avoid getting roped into work. And again, she could just genuinely want to hang out. You couldn't tell with your sister. Cove spoke up after no one said that no one else did to answer Elizabeth's question. Want to go down to the shopping street? It's been a while. I don't think there's a lot of things we could agree on. Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Sounds awesome to me. And like you guys, I haven't been there 1,001 times. It's new to me. Okay. You strolled across the road as a group, back down to the beach, and then to the left. It took less than 15 minutes to arrive. The conveniences of Sunset Bird. The four of you looked around the familiar shops, trying to see if anything caught your attention this time. Derek was the most enthusiastic. He checked out every stall with his eyes wide with wonder. Elizabeth and Cove were in good spirits as well. So cool. He ran over to the street magician, who was currently doing a card trick with a group of enchanted tourists. Derek clapped when the magician showed a middle-aged man his card. Derek turned to the group with a curious gleam on his face. What does it take to perform here anyway? Do you have to ask somebody, or do you just show up and start doing stuff? Who would you even ask? It's a public street. Hey, Miss Mayor, can I pull a rabbit out of my hat? Please, Flopsy is so well behaved, I promise. Derek chuckled, his eyes searching up and down the scene. Maybe there's the boss of the shopping street. No one does any of this around my neighborhood. It's just regular stores behind walls. It's different if someone wants a real store. But here I'm pretty sure people are just putting on their little shows whenever they want and do whatever. It's so neat. Would we be allowed to do something like that? Cove laughed and Derek began almost vibrating with excitement. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. What would we do? Well, I don't know what. Not yet. I mean, I just found out it's a possibility, you know? There's gotta be something. We know cool stuff. I'm sure if we think about it, we can plan a show that would really get the crowd pumped. You have a great idea. I feel like he could try his... Looked at the other two. They continued to brainstorm out loud at different potential performances. It glanced over at Cove and Elizabeth. I mean, I could put a soccer ball in my head. Last time I tried, I got 8 bounces before it fell. I wouldn't bring a ball here.
Why?
Why not? I've just stood over everything around. The stalls, the people, all the colorful chaos that made up the shopping street. Would you want to chase the lost ball here? And what if it hit someone? Even if you're good, someone could bump into you. That's true. Derek thought about it some more. Then he watched another performer, a woman doing tricks with 2 small dogs. One was fluffy and cream colored, while the other one was a cool gray. No one held up loops. Both animals jumped through the openings, happy to receive a treat at the end. Derek brightened. Maybe I could teach crabs how to race. Crabs? That could work. With some amusement, the gang continued to peruse stalls. Elizabeth found some earrings with a dangling, badly misprinted globe that everyone laughed at. We picked out a blob as Iceland, but Derek thought that it had to be Greenland. You know this is a world with what looks like 9 continents? I think you're both wrong. It looks like Iceland to me.
I know.
Right? Suddenly, Ko froze. He stared at him and tried to see what caught his attention. Saw a familiar face down the way. It all made sense. Between the crowds, his bright hair stood out like a neon green bowl in the kitchen sink. It's Jamie! Fuck Jamie! All my homies hate Jamie! Jamie slowly drifted his eyes between the street and his eyes widened in mutual recognition. He definitely noticed you. Derek frowned and Cove sighed. Neither of them happy to see him again. Smiled at Jeremy. He just looked dismissive. Elizabeth raised an eyebrow. Her gaze swept over Jeremy without a hint of a clue. Jeremy simply scoffed to himself and waded deeper into the crowd. Derek relaxed and exhaled loudly. I'm glad he's not going to start anything. Peeked over at Elizabeth with a tiny smirk. See? That was the mean kid.
What?
Huh? You still didn't get it. First day of summer hadn't made nearly as much of an impression on her as it did for Derek, but he smiled and waved it off. Just forget about him. I already have. He laughed and Cove smiled lightly. He seemed to be in a much better mood now that Jeremy was gone. Your eyes wandered over to where Jeremy disappeared. You hadn't forgotten the day you met him either. He was only going to be in town for a vacation while with the parents he hated. That glimpse was probably the last time you would ever see him. I don't think Jeremy will stay here with summer ending. It might have been the last time we ever see him. Yeah, I guess we don't have to worry about that guy anymore. Dick kicked the little rock to the road. It clattered toward and then rolled under a stall. But I still think it's kind of sad Jeremy turned out to be the bull like he is. It would have been nice to make another friend. Cove shook his head. He's clearly not broken up over what might have been. Happy it's over. Elizabeth rolled her eyes at a strange farewell to an odd boy, not interested in the slightest. She clearly didn't understand his impact, and at this point she didn't want to understand. You couldn't help but wonder, though, what would have happened if you would have interacted with Jeremy more. I'm glad you wouldn't find out. Jeremy was unlike anyone that you had ever met before. All my homies hate Jeremy. You and the group moved on from the stall and from Jeremy. It didn't take long for everyone to return to joking. You all enjoyed what little time you had left as Elizabeth mentioned the hour was almost up. The little trip had flown by, and lunch must have been waiting for you by now. Derek bounced on the balls of his feet. Come on, guys. Let's get going so we can eat. I'm starving. Homebound, here we go. Cove stretched one of his arms lazily. Let's go then. He looked at him appraisingly. Let's go carry you back home. Hey, Cove. Yeah? I want to ask, can you carry me home? What? Cove's smile said that he was amused, but the tilt of his eyebrow was full of disbelief. What was a special occasion? I just thought it'd be cool since it's such a special day. Cove sighed and shook his head. This was when Derek became a chorus of laughter. Well, please, maybe? Alright. Yes! Oh, thrilling! This is what we've been waiting for, baby! Cove steps over to you. He looked like he couldn't believe he was doing this. Your lips quirked into a large smile. Thanks, Cove! He carefully crouched down in front of you so that you can climb on. It wasn't hard to hop on. He slipped his arms under your leg and did his best to lift you. He was wobbly, but he managed to stand up all the way. Elizabeth watched with a smirk on her face as Derek laughed even harder. It was fair to say that your antics were entertaining. You're glad Cove went with it. Cove carried you home contentedly. Other than a few good-natured jokes at your expense, he didn't complain. He made it all the way home, all the way to your house without putting you down. It's a pleasant walk home, and in no time you made it back. Derek got to the front door and held it open for everyone as you each moseyed inside. The three parents were still in the kitchen. They looked up and waved. Welcome back, everyone. You made it just in time. I hope you're hungry. When Cove brought you inside, your parents couldn't help but notice the odd conveyance. Your moms were unsure. Mr. Holden raised an eyebrow. Did you pull something? I'm okay. Aw, Cove, you've gotten so strong. And reliable, too. What a guy! The world is out of the commentary. He started walking to your couch. Bent down and let you plop back onto the couch. Thank you, I appreciate it. Cove exhaled loudly and shook out his arms. He seemed relieved that he made it. So, did everyone have a nice time out? He gestured for people to take a seat at the table. Plates of silverware were already been placed out. You took your normal seat. Elizabeth sat across from you. Derek took the seat to your left. Cove sat on your right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a great time. It was fine. I had fun. The bank heist went on without a hitch! I want to do that one so bad! No, I won't. I want to. It's good. I want to. I'm gonna go back and do it. Actually, Mr. Holden sat at an empty seat across from Cove. He smiled at you and all the other kids. Mom set down a platter full of water glasses on the table. She looked down at the gathering. It's a good thing we have 8 chairs. I can't remember the last time we've had a group this big over for a meal. Can you pass the drinks down to the other side? Make sure you all get one. Sure. Those close to the cup obliged and started offering waters around. As everything got set up, Ma chided? What is that word? I'm just gonna say told Elizabeth to take her elbows off the table.
No.
And you shouldn't slouch. Pointed at Mr. Holden, who was leaning forward with both arms on the table. Oops. Mr. Holden seemed unsure about all the sudden attention and carefully rearranged his posture to something suitable for fancy dinner. He smiled sheepishly at Ma. Elizabeth rolled her eyes and Ma gave a level look at her. Should be impolite to the guests of the house either. Elizabeth groaned, long-suffering. Ma giggled and Mr. Holden chuckled.
Not bad.
The lot of you could learn a thing or two from Derek. He has the best manners here. Derek blushed, but it was true. His posture was upright and formal. He even held his fork gracefully. His stable manners on top of all his attempts to aid your parents made him a model of meal attendee behavior.
Aw.
It's nothing. It's true, though. You have been a lovely guest. I noticed that, too. It's always nice when you stay over, Derek. Derek smiled and sat a little taller in his chair. Do you have anything good to say about our other guest? She looked deliberately at Cove with a teasing smirk. Or is there nothing to say? Well, Cove's my number one, but he does still clean his hands by wiping them on his pants. Don't diss your son like that! Cove frowned at that and absentmindedly brushed his hands on his pant legs. Your mom laughed lightly.
There.
Elizabeth, you should know, after all these years, Cove is hardly a guest anymore. Cove smiled awkwardly. Thanks. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Me neither. Everyone ate their meal together, continued to hang out for the afternoon. After the food, you and the others played a couple of games and talked about plans for the upcoming year. Time passed by quickly, and soon it was time to part ways. Ms. Holden talked to your moms, and Cove drifted over to you, knowing that as soon as Dad finished, he'd be leaving. It'd be cool to stay, but we have some stuff to do before everything closes today.
Okay.
Yeah, bye. Can you move? I need the phone. Cove raised an eyebrow, and Elizabeth impatiently gestured behind him. Cove realized that he was standing right in front of where the receiver was placed. He sidestepped out of the way and shook his head, clearly thinking Elizabeth was rushing too much. He just made a beeline for the phone and started dialing a number they figured was one of her friends. And Elizabeth, she was going to be on there for a while. You, Cove, and Derek shuffled closer to the door. It seemed like Mr. Holden was wrapping up his conversation, so everyone started saying their various farewells.
Talk to you later.
See you later, Cove. We gotta do this again sometime. Yeah, see ya. Cove turned to you and smiled slightly. Bye, Viola. Goodbye. Step forward and spread your arms wide. Cove only had a moment to react before you encircled him in your arms. He hugged you back tightly, and his chest rumbled as he laughed. Seriously, dude. We'll have to hang out later. I'm gonna miss you during school. He offered Cove a high five, and the two boys clapped their hands together. Cove and his dad soon left after that. Your parents started cleaning up the house, and Elizabeth was still chatting with her friends on the phone, which is you and Derek left. He elected to stay outside in front of the house to wait for his dad to pick him up. He decided to keep your guest company, although he was usually Cove's visitor. The light summer breeze blew through your hair, and Derek shifted his weight from one foot to another. Thanks for waiting with me. He kicked the ground, distractedly.
Well,
Dad's still gonna be a while. So do you want to go for a walk? Okay. The two of you walked down the street again, just wandering without a destination plan. It was a quiet stroll, too quiet for Derek being the company. You turned to him and noticed that he wasn't saying a word. It was unusual. Derek always had something he could chat about. You weren't sure if you could ask about it. So you ended up at the old park near the beach. Glanced over at Derek once more, still expecting him to say something any second now. However, nothing came from his face. In fact, you noticed a frown creeping on his face. He smiled when he realized you were watching. At least his mouth had turned up. But there wasn't anything that felt happy in his expression. He turned away, and that smile fell from his face. He stared intently at the ground, and you raised an eyebrow. Is everything okay? I'm a little sad. Because with school starting up again, it's gonna be harder to visit. I'm gonna have schoolwork and clubs and practices and everything else.
sucks.
It really sucks that we go to different schools. His face screwed up, and his fists were closed tightly together. It was really concerning him. What if we don't have time? Channel some optimism into the conversation. We'll make time. We can talk over the phone and have plans for weekends. It'll be okay. They looked up at the sky. It was orange or purple with little wisps of clouds scattered around. A plane flew high with jet stream trailing behind it. And he turned to the ground again. His face was tilted far enough down to make it harder to read his expression. Viola, I want to ask you something, if you don't mind. to pause, and you waited for him to finish his thoughts.
Sorry.
I'm kind of wondering, do you like guys at all? Like, would you ever want to be with someone who was a boy? That was weird to ask. I agree with the guy. Okay, then. Consider phrasing his question.
So,
All I mean is, just, is there a guy you think is kind of cool? That you like around here? Not at school or anything, but like, just his head further. He thought about it. Cove. Derek raised an eyebrow. He didn't look all that convinced. I can't tell whether you're kidding around or being serious. I really didn't think you with Cove. He started to mumble to himself, sounding very confused. Maybe she didn't really get my question. So, you pulled yourself together, somehow meekly. He looked at you while trying to project confidence. His posture was too tight for you to believe it. He was nervous.
right.
You know, thinking ahead and everything is important. You gotta get yourself a game plan and all that. It's good to make plans, especially backup plans. He babbled, all full of energy and forced gusto. And well, anyway, I heard about this thing where people make pacts with their good friends that if you don't find someone else, then they get together. Like they get married and stuff. What the fuck? I was thinking, since it's good to have plans, it'd be cool if we did something like that. I started whining and started to make frantic hand gestures. Like, you know, then we never have to worry about a future of finding someone. We could set it like a whole decade in the future. Forever from now. We'd have graduated high school and probably college too. We'd have jobs and be really grown up. I mean, we'd probably have our own places, and maybe our own pets, and student loans and cars. Student loans, that's the kicker. Has Cove ever talked to me about student loans? No. But Derek did, so I know he's for real. Derek babbled for a while more. And it was as if all the words he held silent during your walk was bursting out all at once. So what do you think? I don't think that'll work. Sorry, Derek.
Aw.
Oh, don't worry about it. It's okay. It was just an idea. Thanks for hearing me out and answering my questions and stuff. A little worried that Derek wasn't happy. When he saw his face, he smiled encouragingly.
It's okay.
I promise I'm not mad. I was just wondering. I'm sure things will be okay in the future no matter what. You just nodded. We didn't spend much longer at the park after that. Derek didn't want to miss his dad, so both of you made your way back to your street. When Derek went back home, you decided to settle in for the night. As you got your arms above your head, you noticed that the living room phone was free. Took it easy. You got to the couch and wiggled until you were positioned just right. And you knew when it was perfect, because all the exhaustion from the day started fading away. Lying intently, you were pleased with the end of this day. Looking at the clock on the wall, you thought that there was only about 10 minutes until your mom's would be insisting you had to go to bed, so you just rested, so you could be rested enough for school. You stretched your legs out on the couch and sighed in defeat, watching the minute hand change 1 minute closer to bedtime. You raised yourself, feeling restless, and looked out the window. Startled initially, you spotted a figure in the hills. It was Cove! As the surprise faded, you realized it really wasn't that much of a shock at all. It was exciting. It was exactly something Cove would do. Not to meet him. Or you ran off to go see him. Sprinting, you reached the front door in record time. You didn't think you'd see Cove again that day. You had to go to him. When you arrived, you noticed how many fireflies were out that night. They're drifting lazily, barely minding your presence as you waded through to reach the top of the hill. Cove turned toward you as you approached, and you noticed right away that Cove looked happy to see you. Hey! Smiling shyly, you stopped in front of him, your fingers nervously pulling at the loose string hanging off your shirt. Hi, what are you doing out here? Nothing really. He shrugged, seeming unhappy with his own answer. You stared at him, waiting for him to continue. Well, I guess I was feeling kind of weird about stuff, so I was gonna get some fresh air before bed. but feel better. His mouth pulled into a bent smile. He spoke so quietly that you almost missed it. I think I will. Cove let himself fall back onto his butt and then all the way down. He was laying on his back. He looked up at the sky. Oh, what the fuck? Lay down yourself. You lowered yourself to lay back on the hill. Had been lost in thought. He was possibly waiting for you to situate yourself. As he started speaking, unprompted again. You should tell me about my dad, the money he offered you to be my friend. It was probably the last thing you were expecting out of him. Cove seemed to pick up on that and stretched his arms out right in front of him. This is where we met, remember? It happened that day. You could recall the sad little boy with the pink cast who you found in this very spot. It felt like a lifetime ago. Oh my god, I kind of have a strange feeling looking at you. Not a bad way, just thinking about you then and seeing how you are now, it's something. It's almost unbelievable how much of an impact he made on your life just by moving next door. You couldn't imagine what your days might have looked like in a world where you hadn't met him. Cove glanced back at you. Waiting for your response, you had no idea what to say. Without a word, Cove gave an exaggerated shrug. What? It's you. Huh? A second before answering, he looked thoroughly amused with your reaction. That's what you do all the time. So I'm being you. Didn't even notice. I won't do that. Didn't argue at his assessment. She said a bit. Felt bashful at his joke. Look at you, Cove. Really? Yeah, always. I couldn't help but grin at that. Honestly, there weren't many people you think that you could tease you about something like that. Returning a smile, you realized that there was no denying that two of you have been around each other for a long time. Cove broke the quiet before it could fully settle.
See you tomorrow.
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, see you then. On a final wave, Cove headed for home, but you stayed there for a few minutes longer. Your mind kept going back to a simple statement, see you tomorrow. No matter how much was changing around you, there were some things in your life that seemed to remain true. The hills felt warm to you that night. Before you knew it, you were getting comfortable under the covers of your own room. Your mind couldn't help but still be buzzing at the thoughts about the future. You felt excited. There was little doubt in mind that things were moving forward, and you couldn't wait to find out what changes you were waiting for you on the horizon. Slowly your eyes grew heavy and drifted off to sleep, your mind spinning with wistful thoughts. No matter what happened next, you could only hope that you would make the most of it. You were ensnared in a dream with a noise outside the world jolted you. Your eyes snapped open. The light clatter continued. Now that you were more alert, you could distinguish the tapping sound. Quiet, slow, but persistent. It's fucking Cove. Each beat was like poking. You couldn't ignore it. You lifted your head from the pillow and looked at the source. Not much work was needed to puzzle it out. It was from the window. And with that, you knew exactly what it was. The colored light flittering into your room, it was too early for anyone to be awake, including the sun. It had barely halted itself over the horizon. And didn't stop some people, it seemed. You sat up in bed, opened the window wide. Cool air, not yet warmed by the day, tickled your face as you pushed into your room. And just as you expected, there was your neighbor crouching on your windowsill. He was fully dressed, and not for school. He was wearing a wetsuit and a fond smile. Hey, Viola. You stood back, blinking. So technically, we won't be back to school for a few more hours. His voice was delicate yet deliberate, each word a careful explanation. Classes haven't actually started yet, so do you want to hit the beach with me one last time this summer? Always. His smile widened affectionately. You rushed to get changed into something suitable while Cove climbed down to ground level. Your limbs still half asleep, struggled somewhat as you attempted to coordinate them to a swimsuit. But you got there in the end. Soon you tiptoed out of your front door clutching a towel. Cove was already there to greet you. Oh, sorry. Your eyes met. Cove's gaze darted to your destination and back to you. You checked the doors closed, gave him a thumbs up, and the two of you leapt into action. Wordlessly, you began to run down the familiar path, Cove beside you. The thrill of your illicit outing made you want to laugh. Not that you dared. If anyone in your family looked out and saw you, then summer would be back to being over. You glanced at Cove. Oh, you glanced at Cove. Oh my god. One glance at Cove told you that he was exactly the same, holding back sniggers for fear of being hurt and caught. Your towel streamed out from under your arm like a cape. You were running so fast, downhill, that simply keeping your balance and not tumbling down was a real threat. It just wasn't enough of one of you to slow down your pace. For every step you took, the beach was a little closer, and the day a little brighter. It lay ahead when you arrived, and you were happy to meet it. In between. She just looks the same. Oh, we have another page now? No length. Short. Well, it has to be a little long because she plays like string instruments too. Headscarf, none. A ring. Plain ring. Okay. Done with her. Yeah. Crusher love. I feel like we're entering the love stage here. Hold on. A roll of the dice, baby! Let's have a d12. Yep. Hell yeah, baby! That is love. There we go. Alrighty. Yes. Neither. Since you're romantically interested in Cove and are old enough to start being physically affectionate more seriously, you can choose what initiative level he was throughout step 3. Making sure your player experiences is what you want is important to our life, but always putting your choice first can potentially make a relationship feel one-sided. So we've added some flexibility to how it works. Low in... Oh my god, I just said it. Initiative? Means Cove will occasionally ask to touch the MC, and in those situations there will always be an opportunity to say yes or no. For example, he won't simply lean in or kiss MC as a greeting, or in an emotional moment. Each piece of physical interaction will be either initiated or appear by the player before it happened. Middle initiative means that there will be chosen times that Cove requests to touch the MC, many chances to initiate affection on your own, and also Cove will pretty regularly give affection automatically. One example would be giving MC a kiss because he's happy or emotional or something. In other situations, you could choose not to make the first move in order to give Cove space to be the one to act afterward. Overall, Cove can be romantic, but the player's agency will take priority. High initiative includes everything Middle does, but it also means the player agency will be reduced to a degree in favor of having Cove give physical affection even more frequently and less promptly. Instead of all major affections giving situations being led by choice menu for you to decide on, some will instead be replaced by Cove acting automatically. The level is only recommended if you're very comfortable with physical affection. and would prefer to simply see it happen rather than always holding the reins on it. However, this level is most relevant if Cove ends up as your official boyfriend at some point. Situations where high-level initiative makes a difference tend to come up in scenes that are exclusive to being in a relationship. Parts that are included in the middle initiative will be seen whether you're dating or not. Once you pick the level, it can't be changed later. So keep your full playthrough in mind when deciding. Hope you enjoy whatever initiative option you decide on. Oh, fuck! Because she doesn't like being touched that much. But the shadow does. You know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go middle of the road. We're gonna be in the middle, and then I can edit and censor if need be. Middle. Oh fuck, it just threw me right in! Jesus! Oh my god. He's just trying to kill me. The start of classes ended the relaxed, free days of summer. It didn't take long for you to get back to the swing of the school year routine. Schedules and homework became the new normal. Derek wasn't around nearly as much. For school and after-school activities, there weren't many opportunities for him to take a trip out to your neighborhood. Sometimes you'd hear that he was at training camp or something like that, but you weren't always sure what he was up to. Lost contact as time went on. The Jeremy kid did disappear after that summer, and no one ever heard from him again. Where he went, or what he might be up to, is a mystery. Most summers came and went, with the waves on the shore coming in and out. In your second year of high school, someone new started to visit Sunset Bird. A sunny girl named Terry Brooke. She was a friend Cove made due to them both being ocean obsessed. Terry was more than glad to befriend you too. Someone close to Cove had to be good company, she felt. You were pleased to get along with her as well. Terry was tied with another girl, who you had known distinctly from school for a long time, Miranda Eckert. You saw more and more of her as time went on, thanks to Terry and Miranda's own outreach. For a while, you all developed a real friendship together. As for your home life, the Bells also had developments. Changing laws and public perception, countrywide made it possible for your moms to openly wear their wedding rings without questions. Though they had a wedding years ago, it was only recently that the union was officially recognized everywhere in the U.S. It was a good day, to say the least. Elizabeth came into her own and stopped being quite as irritable. She no longer worried about perceived childishness as she grew up for real. She didn't even mind being called Lizzie again, though most people used Liz. She eventually graduated high school and moved out to attend college in another state. It was left for you to adjust to your older sister being gone. Liz had never let you forget her role in your life, though, and kept in touch. Cove's relationship with his family improved over the years. Kara visited several times over the summer, and things became easier between the two. He was also closer to his dad than ever before. You knew they talked more, and that helped prevent a lot of friction before it could start. And Cove only continued to open up to his parents and to the rest of the world. He was so bright he shone. He would willingly join conversations, make jokes, and put in an effort to not use overly blunt phrasing. Outdoor and physical activities still had his heart and his body. By this point, he had developed a real skill. Many people thought he had what it took to become pro. Things had shifted between you and Cove. You were friends for years. The closer you became, the more you felt for him. After all this time, he wasn't just a neighbor. He wasn't only a friend, or even a guy you were interested in. You You were in love with him. You loved Cove. You knew that fact for certain. There was no one else you held feelings for. It was strange to look back on it all. The future faded into the present, and then it was simply the past. Even the most fundamental parts of your life couldn't last forever. You felt that the most pointedly, the day you inevitably graduated high school. It was over, and you would not go back ever again. From now on, what came next was your choice. You would be directing your own life. That was where you were currently. Summer after school had ended. The first summer of true freedom. Nope, it's not true freedom. When you graduate, you're like, son of a... What used to be a representative of from the typical is now going to be the first step into adulthood. One fine summer morning. Oh, did they change the blinds? That's nice. I think they changed the blind color. One fine summer morning, you took in what had to become a very special scene. The whole family having a meal together. Your big sister Liz still hadn't lived in the house full time for a couple of years, but she arrived last week to spend the season here since it was off semester for her. She wanted to make sure she was in town because you had now also graduated high school, and who knew how much rarer these moments would become in the future. You watched on as Liz laughed good-naturedly at a comment Mom made. Her Elizabeth-only mindset had only been a phase. Nearly any nickname was welcomed at this point in her life. Strangely, even though she had moved away, lately you felt closer to her than you had a long time ago. You idly scooped up more of your breakfast and chewed absent-mindedly. Picky eater. In the meal, you had reflected that most were happy to make food that fit your needs, along with dishes for themselves that didn't. Although you often made your own food nowadays. But it wasn't only you that had a diet that excluded certain things, as Liz had been vegetarian for a while. Aw, they're getting old. That's sad. Conversation had gone on idly, without you fully taking in the words. Your ears perked up as Ma started a bit of town gossip. So that's how I heard the news. Alright, now stop burying the lead? And tell us, what is the so-called news? Ma giggled as she cast a look across the table, satisfied that she had everyone's attention. Well, it turns out the Donalds won't be renting the condo up the street as per Sunset Bird tradition, for the first time in what must be in nearly 2 decades. Chorus of gasps and shocked expressions were had all around. After the initial shock, your eyebrows pinched. Ma may consider them by name, but you and Liz only viewed them exclusively as the mean old couple who would yell at everyone under 25 who crossed their path. Ma continued on to tell the story, spreading strawberry jam over the piece of toast that she had. They decided not to take big trips anymore. Family or friends will be visiting them at their house. That's nice for them then. Have a great summer. Me and grandparents with no grandkids away from us. Finally leave this on. It's still okay even if they're mean. They've had a full life, there's nothing to sneeze at. And you be nice, Liz. You don't want to end up like them, do you? You and your sister cracked smiles at the joke. Well, at least they won't be here to yell at my children anymore. Lonnie. The blunt comment got laughter from all 3 of you. There was a conversation once more. You continued to chat with your family until the meal was over. Step 3. Third time's charm. As it went, once the food was eaten, the cleanup had to be done. Liz took the role of washing the dishes, and passed them to you for drying and putting away. She set the cups in front of you as they need to go on the top shelf of the cabinet. The test was pretty straightforward. You were tall, very tall. It was simply your lot in life. You'd always been vertically gifted. You hoped you still might grow more. It was a struggle for you because you remember how you used to feel so content right when you were younger. Lizzie shook you out of your initial musing by starting an impromptu conversation. She seemed to be voicing the thoughts that were buzzing around in her own head. I have to say, going back for another semester this fall feels pretty intimidating. You'd think after the first year or two I'd have a handle on things, but no. You stole a glance at her, still placing cups in proper places. I guess it's only fair. My first round was pretty general classes, and year 1 of my architect major was the basics. Now it's serious. I have to actually know some things. The laugh she gave was flippantly airy, but the way she scrubbed the plates held more force than necessary. With that, I think I'm going to end the episode here. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you later.